Got a bone to pick.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right. So we are live, and the only real difference this time is the backdrop behind Eric is a little more subtropical.
Look at that sunshine, palm trees.
How do I?
Everybody, view.
There we go.
Sitting right on the
wow.
edge here.
Is that a well?
Yeah. There's little anoles running around all over the place.
Oh, sick! Don't fall in or drop your phone in.
Well, here. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that'd be awful.
I'm usually sitting right where the gator comes up, but
you waiting for him?
Yeah. We have a love-hate relationship. This gator, we've been coming here me and Dory have been together for like 12 years. And this thing has grown up the whole time here. And it was like this small, maybe like a foot. Mm-hmm. Now it's like maybe 8 foot. And I can't believe they still let it in the park, but everybody's pretty cool with it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, as long as people aren't feeding it and it doesn't become a nuisance, then it should be able to coexist, right?
Yeah. But every time I come here, it's like either it's hiding or, I don't know.
Yeah.
Goddamn thing is, I find an Owen belly python. I can't find an alligator in Florida.
I struggled finding gators in Florida too. I saw a lot of them in Georgia.
Really?
Yeah. In like the Savannah area, there was like a alligator lane or something, like a road that you can drive in circles, and there were just gators everywhere. It was pretty cool.
That's cool.
We went at night with the flashlights, and all the eye shine was spooky.
Yeah. What part of Florida are you in?
I'm in Jensen Beach, which is probably maybe 45 minutes south of West Palm.
Okay. So you're in South Florida, right?
Yeah.
So we okay. I like going out there. That's a good part of the state. So we were on time. And our special guest here,
they got a little too special. They're a little too entitled.
He's doing the fashionably late, so you notice him, sort of thing.
Thinks he's a big guy.
And you make the presence known, sort of thing. So we're gonna welcome on for the first time a special guest, and everybody, welcome to Bigfoot.
Bitch.
Look who decided to show up.
I was here on time in the green room. He's just making me wait,
I did make you wait for a minute.
Yeah, that's how it happened. No, I was here on time.
Well, I mean, you guys have ultimate control on NPR. Every once in a while, it's the intern's turn to get a little bit of the control.
Yeah, Owen, what's my name? Say my name. No cheating.
I just call you thing 1 and thing 2. I mean, it's really the best. I can't remember. We burned through interns so quickly. Eric has a lot of high demands, and we burned through them quickly. So I really just try not to get attached.
Notice how it's my fault that we burned through interns.
Of course it is. I'm not blaming. Of course it is. Yeah.
I don't even call them interns, but it's my fault that they leave or quit or
It's the best thing to do is to just paint this horrible scenario and be like, and why is it like that, Eric? And he's like, like, yeah.
I just showed up. What are you talking about?
Last time Riley was late with Eric's coffee, I saw him smack him across the face. Right, Eric? And Eric's like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, it's that whole thing.
This isn't black coffee.
Pushes him over, spills the entire thing.
And he spikes it. Yeah, I mean, it
was Bailey's.
I saw him get violent at freaking, in Australia.
Dude, every time I see something like that in a movie where somebody's a real asshole and smashes something, I always man, I've always wanted to do that, but not for real though.
Not for real,
because that's so mean. I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Please don't cry.
Weren't
They,
there
like-
weren't there like several like places where you could go like in a
Yes,
room?
that's what I was
and,
gonna say.
And like with a
purge
baseball
rooms.
bat to like break this television. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, you can just
Yeah.
go and shatter everything. You like wear
I-
the PPE and
Yeah,
Go
I
to
watched
town.
it. I watched a little mini documentary that over in I couldn't remember if it was Japan or China or something like that, but because people are so good at, maintaining composure and class over there, that they sometimes they have like crazy amounts of like crime and spousal abuse and stuff in some of these areas. And so what they do is these people started making legal outlets for people to get their stress out, and basically made these, it looks like shooting range sort of like channels, but it's for smashing porcelain and ceramic plates. And so there's just like debris everywhere. And these people get to smash porcelain of like, they'll make more than just plates. They'll do like bowls or vases, big stuff. And you pay for like, a chunk of stuff to smash, and you vent your frustrations. And then what they do is they recycle and get all that porcelain, throw it back in the kiln and make more out of it. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's brilliant.
Eric will tell you that I'm a pillar of calm. So
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. 100%.
Oh,
Never
yeah.
flown off the handle or gotten rage filled,
No.
but yeah, it's so I'm the
Never.
anchor of the NPR crew. I keep him grounded.
I don't know. Oh, and I kind of
Right.
see you as the guy who
No.
who gets drunk and gets the really regrettable, like, somebody's business logo tattooed on their ass cheek one night.
No.
Never speaks about it again.
It would be my own business logo. Thank you. But
it's on your butt.
no, it's across my chest.
Oh,
But
okay.
the giant rogue flag. It goes from like
The
here
flag.
to here. Right? Yeah. Yeah. Eric's portrait's on my ass cheek. But
He was so
that's-
upset. He was so upset when he had to put the rogue dash reptiles, because somebody already had rogue
Piss
reptiles.
me off.
Rogue
I
reptiles
remember
on the
that.
bottom.
Well,
For
because
another session? God damn it.
Well, because I contacted the person and I'm like, "Are you using the website?" They're like, "No." I'm like, "All right, well, how much to buy it from you?" They're like, $500. I'm like, "Go fuck yourself."
And
Okay,
it's a bearded dragon breeder, right?
I think they were a bearded dragon breeder, and then they posted some stuff. Then there's also a rogue reptiles in Africa that exports ball pythons that I've been getting. Like every once in a while, somebody's like, "Hey man, are you going to protect your brand?" You're right. You know what? They're totally going to confuse me with the dude that exports ball pythons out of South Africa. You're right. I gotta sue this man. Like, no,
Just make the dash part of it. Spell it out. Rogue, DASH, reptiles.
whatever.
The dash is rogue.
Yeah, it is. It's just dumb, but whatever.
The next line of T-shirts you make should just have a dash right in the middle, nothing else.
Right here, tiny letters. Like it
Put
just
the
says
flag
Rogue
logo
really
on the
small.
back, but
Yeah.
just poof, just a
Yeah.
dash. That would
Yeah.
be funny as shit.
Eric,
Oh,
that's the
man.
camera. Don't poke it.
No, I was just looking to see if I
This
could
is
see
why
the
we're not a
jacket,
visual medium. This is like right here. It's technology. What? I don't.
The files are in the computer.
Why can't I touch Owen?
Yeah, he's right here, but I can't pet him. Yeah,
I want to
Yeah.
feel the beard. Does it feel like squirrel?
Oh my gosh.
That thing, like, I have scratches on my arm because it's little tiny squirrel claws just raked out, bastard.
So does the squirrel get to ride on Mort at
the
all?
squirrel.
No, the squirrel does not get to go around Mort because that is the forbidden squirrel zone. The basement is where serpents live, and
I
there's
just
a
want
lot
to
of
see it once.
a lot of snakes that would very much like to kill and eat this rodent. So, the
Are you
squirrel's
going to?
not-
Are you
What?
going to train the squirrel to
No,
tolerate
that's not
leash
my-
handling or wearing
No,
top hats?
none of this is my problem. Like, I don't. No, I'm not training a rat to do anything. The rat exists. If it gets trained, it's because Melissa did it. I do nothing.
Is
that is-
Archie a red squirrel? He looks like he's red.
I don't know. He's a squirrel.
He's got nice ear tufts, right?
he's a Florida locality squirrel. I mean, I don't know what.
Oh,
Ooh, he's exotic.
I
you
know,
have
right?
lineage?
Damn.
No, you wanna know
Is
why?
he pure?
'Cause
You want me
he's
to bring him back to me?
squirrel.
Hey, Hey,
What's
Owen.
the locality? I'll go catch another one.
We'll start a program.
GPS coordinates,
Oh,
or
no,
I don't believe you.
He had to be neutered. I'll get the GPS coordinates of her house in Florida, and that's pretty much where he was.
Oh, and I can get you a melanistic squirrel. They have them out here.
I don't care.
It's a
Breeding
morph.
program.
No, I don't want to. No,
You could probably make a world's first.
I don't care.
Ooh.
Yeah.
See, we're
I'll
just
call
helping
it the-
you.
I'll call it the Phantom Soul Sucker Squirrel. It's the melt. What?
The melt. Oh goodness.
Oh
It's the
man.
nanny squirrel. Thinking
We've
of other-
gotten significantly off the
Yes, dear
rails
God,
before
what
the
the
train
hell?
even got
Is
going.
Is this what you people do in Carpets on Coffee? I thought it was like snake.
Carpets on coffee.
Carpets in coffee, where coffee? Whatever.
Can you imagine if carpets had caffeine? How
turtles are
cracked out they would be?
Oh, what's
Get
that,
it,
Eric?
Eric. Get it.
And now we go
Dive in.
live
Oh,
to our
God.
field
Eric,
reporter.
yeah, now we go
in
live
the
to
field.
field correspondent Eric Burke. Eric, jump on that turtle.
I'm sitting here with the birds. They're just chilling.
There are birds
You know.
there. Hey,
Yeah,
could you
birds.
ask them how they feel
Those are
about,
ibis, right?
about the gators?
Ask the
About the
birds,
gators?
are they
I-
prepared for violent protests at the capitals today?
Jesus.
Yes. They're not
Gone
political birds.
insane. Thank you.
Oh
God.
man.
How
Oh,
is the
man.
weather in Florida?
He's
here, Mr.
outside.
Burke?
It's
Cold.
better than up here.
Oh,
What?
it's cold?
What's it up there, Owen?
I don't
What's
know,
the
like
temp?
24.
Okay.
Just do.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was not prepared.
We
You're
know.
Right
fired.
now, it's, what else? is new?
43 degrees.
It's probably like 65 here right now. Last night it was down in the 40s. So
You still win.
Yeah. Cold for
Mhm.
Florida anyway.
Yeah.
It's warm where I'm at. I don't know about Sacramento, Riley, but it's going to be in the 70s today. Feels like spring.
I've got a high of 68 listed for
No,
today.
this is fine. They have a little bit of time, and then their state's on fire. Like it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
No, it never
or
ends
the ground
now.
is shaking apart. Like it's
Yeah.
they're like,
Yeah.
oh, 60 degrees. Yeah, I'll wait. Like
I'm
it's
a little
fine.
scared. There's been a couple little earthquakes the last couple days. I hate when that starts ramping up.
Yeah.
See? Doesn't,
Yeah.
yeah. Except you can have your 60 degrees. I don't have to worry about.
yeah,
Yeah, if you guys see
are-
this stack of cage topple on top of me, it's an earthquake.
So do we just continue the show? Like if
Yeah. Oh God!
Lucas,
Show must go on.
Lucas,
cut his stream.
comments and like as the coffee cup like dips down below the camera and back up.
Well,
All
I
right.
can
Yeah.
get rid of his window bubble and we can just
No, I
pretend it
want
never
I
happened.
want to. Lucas, explain to us how you feel right now.
You see him climbing out of glass and wood. Where's my black
I
head?
feel like Owen's retic.
Yeah. Damn. Damn. Yeah.
Lucas with the
was,
vengeance. I love it.
that was good. That was good.
He's
That was
off the
one of
leash.
those. I set it up and he spikes it over the net on my face. Like
I got
Yeah.
up a few hours early. I knew I needed my brain to be awake for this one.
Lucas is like training in some sort of Rocky montage outside,
In the cold.
McIntyre.
running up a mountain. McIntyre. Jesus.
Good.
Oh
man.
my gosh.
So
So
how's the breeding
Yeah,
season
what are we
going for you,
supposed-
gents?
Oh my god. Well, I'm actually looking at my my striped possible super caramel albino getting one last lockup in with that citrus tiger because she's ovulating. So
What the hell is that
So-
going to make?
a lot of
Cool.
things.
Stop.
Well, that one is going to
Snakes.
be citrus tigers, caramel citrus tigers, albino citrus tigers, caramel albino citrus tigers. So,
See, the shitty thing is like it's going to take you a while to figure out the caramel
mhm.
albino citrus tigers and the albino citrus tigers. You're going to be like,
Yeah,
oh, this one looks weirder, so that must be the caramel.
right. Well, and so I'm actually really hoping that I get more normals and hets than
Mhm.
visuals. Like I do want to see some visual albinos, but I kind of want to see at least, like 6 or 8 normal like hets in there because I
Yeah.
also want to prove out if this guy's a super caramel or just a caramel albino.
whatever you want,
Right.
you'll only get one of them in the clutch. It's like how Eric wanted red tigers out of that red tiger and jag clutch, and it was like one tiger, everything else was a jaguar. It's like that is what you will get one, and then the rest will be like
albino carpet.
Like, damn it!
All right.
Yeah.
I'll have no idea what any of them are for like a year.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but even with all that, I think the contrast, even
Uh-oh.
for the regular albinos that are not striped, it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah. I'm excited to see that.
I'd be totally wrong.
We're also not going to cut away if an alligator comes up the riverbank and grabs Eric.
Yeah,
like
this bird's coming pretty close.
If he might fly off with you.
If the ibis attacks Eric, don't cut away either. I mean, like that'll be great too. So
this side
not
of the
like
screen
this
will just disappear.
Yeah,
Not like
there's
this.
Oh.
Oh my God.
Nice.
This is too good.
Take care of the IJs.
we didn't hear that last part, right? Like,
I heard give Riley all the IJs. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
that's when we have to cut the feed and discuss what we heard and then come to a consensus of how long Eric's last will and testament that he gave us as he was being dragged away was.
Next week we will be going over which snakes go where. Thank you.
Yeah,
everyone.
thank you very much. So, also, I'm the closest, so I might not
shit.
listen.
Owen's in charge.
Yes.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. That's-
Well, we know which snakes he won't be taking.
you're right. You're right. If you don't fight me, I'll let you have the idea.
his two Bontang retics.
Well, those
Yeah,
are
that's
those are
true.
mini retics, right?
For
Yeah.
now.
Toy
They're still
retics.
retics.
What do they call them?
Toy retakes. Yeah. Like toy.
That-
toy
How many
poodles.
communities can we piss off this morning? Let's keep it
Oh,
going.
yeah. Keep it going, Owen.
That's like,
Riley,
what,
say
three
something
so
about
far?
vegans.
I hate vegans.
There we go. Next. Keep going.
What else do we got?
Beautiful. How's the
Gotta
Kriba?
be another group.
Okay, so I paired. I came home. The male was active. He was pushing a little bit, and just to be extra safe, I thought I'll put him in supervised with the female. She was out. She's actually been striking at my hand a lot, so I think she's hungry, like trying to really put food stores towards egg production.
Do you feed
So-
during breeding, Riley?
Yeah. I do smaller prey items, and I kind of spread out the frequency because
Yeah, I do too.
they can still digest at these temperatures as long as it's not a big meal.
Mhm.
Being collie breeds, they're just kind of built that way. But she pretty much hides all the time unless I'm moving my hands in front of the glass. And lately, the last 2 days, she's been striking out at the glass. So I'm thinking she's pretty hungry. So I'm going to give her some food either tomorrow or the next day. But I put the male in again to see what they would do. And having seen the first stage of like no interest and then that one fine window of like very, very deliberate receptiveness, I knew what to look for. And I put him in. And it was back to like the initial stage of not really being interested, the female running away from him, the male not even really like pursuing that deliberately. So I was like, okay, she's done cycling.
Mhm.
If I'm getting them, I'm getting them. If not, then
They're not,
the opportunity, the window is passed, so to speak. So I think when I introduced him for 20 minutes the other day, that was probably the last I'm going to do it this season. And now it's just going to be a waiting game. In a couple weeks, I'm going to put a hot spot back on her and let her have some warmth and then just keep an eye on her and see what happens. So I'm pretty sure I'm getting them because for the last week or so, I've been checking on her every morning and taking her out and letting her run through my hands. And her body composition is entirely different than it was last year. Like the way the muscles are showing, the way she's carrying her fat reserves and things lower. And then you know how like when you've got a snake that's ovulating, you hold them out and they kind of sag and you can see that lower third, like there's a bulge, like kind of like the water balloons in there. She's kind of got that going on at the end. And then it's even most noticeable when I feed her back into the enclosure, she's cruising through. If you're looking right at the back of her tail, all the scales are just distended and not touching. And then just like all of a sudden, then there's tail. And it's unusual for her because she's, kind of small and slender. So I'm fairly confident we're getting some sort of eggs whether they're fertile or not
Fertile or
remains to
not,
be
yeah.
seen. Yeah, so
Cool.
Sweet.
That's cool.
yeah. And then Poplins are back on the list. I'm still not sure I'm getting any of the striped jungle stuff. However, last night I was checking on critters, and this female I got from Travis a year or so ago, she was out, and that little dinky 1.5-year-old male was like, I just see his head poking out from her coils. She's like this big, and I just see this little head like beep, and then his like body draped over, and then like tail disappeared somewhere in there. I'm like, hey, if you get it done, man, good on you, but I'm not expecting
It's a
anything.
miracle he hasn't just been run over and crushed by her. It's like she's moving around the cage.
Yeah,
Like, oh my
that is
God.
that's a fair concern. I mean, he's tiny, and during the day he sleeps under the paper in the far corner away from them. I'm like, dude, what are you
Trying
doing?
to get himself killed. Like, Jesus.
I know.
Wow.
I half expected one or both of the females to think I was introducing food into the enclosure the first few times. So I like made sure they were awake, pointed them elsewhere, and fed him in the back, and then watched, because I was worried they would be like, ooh, what's that? Whop, and just
Yeah,
grab it.
yeah.
And I'd be like,
Down him.
and he'd just be dead in an
Dead.
instant.
He'd be dead by a strike. Yeah. And
Yeah, which is why I kept a brother of his.
Just in
You,
case.
Point two from that
you
flat.
anticipated his murder?
I just don't. You never know. I always think about this when it comes to holdbacks, right? You know,
Oh
we always
my
talk about
God.
you keep something, right? You keep a pair, right? Well, what happens if something happens to that pair and you've sold everything else? Nobody wants to give it back. Then you're screwed.
Yeah.
So what do you? What's the obvious answer to
Yeah.
me was keep 2 pairs.
An obvious answer, and that's bad that it's one of those
Run
things
out
where
of
I can see. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I can see the upside, but then I also see the downside. It's like that
Yeah.
makes sense to me, and I should really evaluate why that makes sense to me, because it shouldn't. But yeah,
So,
Oh,
but then there's the benefit of that strategy is if all goes well, and he doesn't get crushed, and he does breed and all this stuff, I can sell that other male later. Yeah.
yeah.
But I did get an update from a woman locally who bought like the last female from that clutch, and she had good like broken up striping, but she sent me a photo of it recently, and the thing is just smoking hot, like the blackest blacks, the yellowest yellows, and I'm like, shit, I should have kept that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why Eric doesn't sell his snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Burke the
This is
clutch.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just burnt the whole
exactly.
thing. Yeah.
I never thought in
Oh,
a million
Tom-
years I would become a, you know, my name.
You should
would
know it
be,
was only a matter of time
situated-
hanging around me. Yeah.
Burke it.
Yeah. Burkett.
Yeah.
You know,
Burke it real good.
almost as good as Wheelering, but that's
Yeah,
different.
I was thinking about Wheelering this morning. I was thinking about if we needed to talk about that, because like
No.
because it's just a great. It's I don't know. I was thinking
No,
about
it's
how we
not,
use
no.
nouns and make verbs out of them, and then I was like we make pronouns verbs. Like
Yeah.
Wheeler becomes Wheelering, and I don't know why I was thinking about that. But anyway, happy accident. We're
Were you
talking about it as well.
Were you under the influence of something? I mean,
No,
because I might.
No.
I might
That's a problem.
no, I just
I
woke
not.
up. I just woke up.
I would
I'm-
not have done such things. Yeah. Okay.
No, I was actually researching some colubrids and writing a paper. So no, I was not.
Nice.
That comes later. Got it. So.
Yep. Yeah, which I found out some cool stuff, by the way. Well, we'll talk about it in those episodes.
we're gonna
but
have to.
anyway,
Yeah.
I'm actually so we'll segue into this, because then this applies to a lot of different things. But my Mad Hogs, I'm hoping, are breeding. They're getting a nice cooling this season.
Nice.
But now I'm going to be changing the way I work with them to be a little more safe.
Yeah, Riley, did you find anything on blondes? Or because I know you sent me speckled and giant. Anything on blonde?
Nothing specifically as far as their venomous goes. It's, I don't know. There's a couple trains of thought in my head as far as that. You know, some people think like the bigger animals that have more crushing power or better at getting their prey might not need a potent venom as far as a Duvernoy's gland. So like
Yeah.
maybe
I'd
the
lean that
little
way,
guys are more potent than the other two. But then there's the other train of thought that's like bigger means bigger glands, more delivery. I don't know. So
I think it's going to vary, but I would probably lean that they would follow the speckleds as opposed to the giants, just because you could be safer that way. So,
yeah, it was just interesting because I've had this it's like right up here bookmarked on my computer for the last couple of years, and I've read 90% of it like a couple times, and then at the very bottom, I forgot there's a section talking about Leoheterodon gayi, which is the speckleds, and how they tested and did some experiments, and it's a rear fang Duvernoy's gland that has the potency to put down a mouse in 20 minutes. And I'm just like,
wow,
that seems significant. So
I wonder how much you would need to drop like an Eric. I mean, like, you know, a little bit more.
Yeah. Oh yeah, a little bit.
A little bit more. Yeah.
3 bites.
Yeah.
Does that make you guys rethink your whole? I remember going to Owen. He's just sort of taking them out, like, you know, like, oh, check this out. We're just sort of looking at it like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Can I hold it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold it, you know.
Yeah, you can boop it and put a hat on it.
I mean, Lucas has video footage of me showing him them like handling them multiple like for the interview thing. So yeah, it definitely will, because now they're falling into the same rules that the false water cobra are going to fall under. It's like, nope. So, I'm not chancing it.
So, do you guys see yourself segueing into, you know, well, I don't know about you, Riley, but Owen, you're in PA, which is the wild, wild west. So you can have whatever you want.
No.
You see yourself segueing into
just straight up no. Like, no, dude, I was cleaning carpets today and I got I was cleaning carpets today and I got nicked by something. I don't know what it was, but I'm like bleeding. I'm like, oh, when that happened? I can't be trusted around full venomous. Like, I'd be like, weird, and then dead. Like, no, it would no. I'd be one of those assholes that like gets bit by like their fang in like the poop that like still had a little bit of venom on it and knocks me sideways. No.
But what's the difference? Like, what's the difference? Right now, you have venomous snakes, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the difference?
Fuck you. That's the difference.
He's like, damn you and your valid points.
Like, my brain's like, how do I stop him? I don't know what to do. But I don't
know. Like, I envy you guys being able to have the opportunity. Like,
I don't want the opportunity, dude.
Like Lucas and I can go get a fishing license and just have a couple native crotalus, and like that's perfectly legal. But you know, grass is always greener.
Albino? Is that a thing?
No. You can technically anything that occurs within the state, within the state of California, which there's a lot more ambiguity for those southern species because there's some like range extensions and overlap. So no, that you don't have to have albinos, but for things like Western diamondbacks, which they still consider legal, I think you do have to have those as albinos.
And
then you can't own the red diamonds, the rubers, because they're protected.
Right.
But like we couldn't. There aren't permits for us to do exotic stuff. Like I think there's only a couple exemptions for people there, and within the state, and there's usually like educational or scientific purposes behind it that are state funded, right? Because the state is really strict.
They make bigger coffee pots, you know that, right? Like I don't know why you had such a tiny little wee coffee pot.
I'm a little guy. It's proportional.
I was watching that, and I thought he was chugging that whole thing for a second. I was like,
Riley's talking, he just starts chugging the black coffee. It's like, dude. It's like,
this is all black coffee, and this was full of black coffee. So with venomous, it seems as of late that there's a push for people to like get the idiots in check, right? I don't know. It seems like
because it's a loaded gun. It's not when you're going to get bit, or if you're going to get bit, it's when. And when you open yourself up for, handling the venomous and keeping the venomous in the right way, you're opening yourself up to possible bites and possible danger, even if you're doing everything correct. Right. When you're showing off and being a douche canoe about it, you're opening yourself up to accidents tenfold. Right. And it's not just you. Yeah. If you get bit by a gaboon viper, then for all you know, your township's going to be like, hey, no venomous. And then your state's going to be like, well, no venomous. And then now you're affecting other people who might have been doing it correctly. So
That's exactly how I think about it as well, and that's what I was kind of saying during the holiday show. And Scott Eiper was kind of like, "Yeah, but have you ever actually kept venomous? Like, you try hooking a king cobra, like that's probably even harder. You know,
Of
it's
course
like,
it is. Of course it is. It's a
so
king cobra.
Yeah.
What do you think about
Sure.
his point of view from that
I think
that
that
episode where he kind of was like, no.
Yeah. I mean, I think Scott has a shit ton more experience handling venomous than I will ever have.
Mhm.
So, and I understand his point of view from it, and I also know that he has a fantastic setup of cages, locking systems, and all that shit like that to do everything safe and proper.
Mhm.
And he still has had incidents, you know.
Well,
Right.
I think probably, maybe I'm wrong, Lucas, but I think you're probably getting at the fact of, the knuckleheads that are on YouTube
Yeah.
handling it like it's
Breaking
across
his
I-
arm,
you
yeah.
know, as opposed to hooking something out. Like, I would
Absolutely.
imagine that there's species where you do have to tail and
Yes.
you do have to
And the
put
dickheads
hands
that
on.
don't even know the snake's name, like Tyler
Yeah.
Nolan, he doesn't know anything about
Yeah.
the snake.
You know, it's an interesting term I've heard used to describe him as a Google keeper. And I was
A
like,
Google keeper.
and I was like, oh, that's interesting because I too have seen his lack of understanding of natural history of alligators and turtles and how you shouldn't keep alligators and turtles enclosures together because alligators will eat said turtles. But that's too complex.
Even if they can't eat the turtle, you still
They're gonna
walk in and there's
try.
tooth marks all over the turtle.
Yeah.
Like, he's
But,
missing a foot.
That's
Like,
way too advanced, apparently.
It's not good for the turtle. The alligator's having a great time, but the
That's-
turtle is the one that's not really enjoying the experience.
I think right now what we're seeing is because everything is so public
Must be-
and on social media and everything everywhere now that it's
Yeah.
finally catching up, and we're also being very aware of how legislation is changing much more so than we were aware of it 10, 20 years ago, because everything is so public and people in Florida can see everything, or people overseas can see stuff here. And so the ripple effects extend further and happen much quicker these days because of social media and the fact that the world is so globalized. It's all globalization accelerating these processes over time. And I actually have my degree in this.
There you
Ooh.
First time I've used it since I graduated.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is what we're seeing is an accelerated effect of globalization. And so the negative and the positive happen in much more amplified
Right.
instances, basically. Like the good is profoundly promoted and the negative is profoundly promoted. And then the results are very extreme.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's because people don't want to. It's just easier to do the broad sweeping legislation ban or whatever instead of having a whole committee put together of experts, which takes time to put together and fun to then do educational insight and digging around to figure out what's best for the state or the county or whatever. And so now that everybody can see the negative, I think what we're starting to see are the people with the positive and safe approach getting so much. They're having to jump through so many hoops and hurdles just to keep up their venomous keeping or their safe ways or their businesses that involve these animals, that it's now become a threat to their livelihood or their lifestyle. And it's basically bad apples ruin it for everybody. And so now they're speaking out about it. And one person in particular, Cody Bartolini, is using his platform with the Reptile Preservation Institute to show proper husbandry and keeping of these venomous snakes. And he's not a fan of being on video, but he does it very well. And his team and him, they show proper hooking techniques, proper enclosure, how to shift animals without ever touching them. And he talks through it all. And it's just, I think we should be promoting those people more than the free handlers and the people getting all the entertainment shock value. The unfortunate side is there are people in this population who watch that know it's bad and know it's not good examples, but they still find it entertaining. So that's why they watch it. And so like that chunk of people, you don't need to convince them that it's wrong. They already know, but they're still watching it.
Right.
And it's kind of hard. That's like that middle ground where it's like, well, what do you do about that? So it's always going to be around.
Right. And that's the point I was trying to make when I was talking about this on that holiday show, is that I think a big problem is that those people are literally rewarded for the riskier and more dangerous they get.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the way that YouTube is monetized, and that's what pulls in these casual viewers, a lot of which probably don't have, you know, a herpetology, herpetoculture background. They probably are just like, ooh, is this guy going to get bit by big snake? And
Absolutely.
go dead?
Also,
You know,
even if they do get bit,
Yeah.
some of them, vlog or do the entire step-by-step process of like their finger dissolving.
Yeah,
And it's
exactly.
like,
Yeah.
So like
I
with
got
Eric,
bit by a king cobra.
with Eric's
Let's
question
vlog.
of like, would you dip into venomous? So the venomous that I have, apparently, my biggest threat is that I will have swelling and pain.
Yeah.
Right.
That's it. That's it.
Unless
That's
you're allergic. As
That's
always.
it. Unless I'm allergic.
Yeah.
So that's
Well,
it.
and
Now,
so that
it-
level of reaction was supposed to potentially be an allergic thing.
Okay, then
That
that's
could
fine.
have been the extreme results of an allergy.
That's fine. That's fine.
Mhm.
That's the
Yeah.
highest level. I don't
Yeah.
have to worry about the bone in my finger coming out and falling off. It's like, no,
Right. Yeah.
because I missed a fang. Like,
You know-
no. That's it.
Yeah.
So,
It must be super
Yeah.
frustrating for people like Cody and Scott and Phil and these guys that do it the right way, where they have to sit back and watch these knuckleheads be the forefront of their sector of the hobby, and even like to a point where they could take it away, and
Yeah.
you're at the mercy. And it's sort of what Lucas was saying. It's like they're rewarded for nonsense. We're
Right.
when we were down here, I was sitting watching TV with my in-laws, and they're watching, I don't even know, some stupid show where groups of people go into the Everglades to try to find Burmese pythons and
stop
they
it.
get money
keep
for them
seeing
or
those
whatever.
commercials.
Yeah.
Like, no,
Hunting the python.
Watching it,
whatever.
something like that, and I'm watching this, and I'm just like, this show is so fucking ridiculous. It's insane, and I'm watching my in-laws' reaction to it because they're watching it from the aspect of not knowing how a Burmese python acts or reacts, or like how you should pick it up or handle it or whatever. And you're sitting there and you're just like, this is just utter fucking nonsense. And it's on TV. So now
Mhm.
it's like the normal person that watches that, their perception of these things is, and I'm not saying that they're, I know that they're wild pythons and, they're going to be, aggressive, but any person that has a python knows that how these idiots are handling these things are just like they're making the python react that way. You can just see it.
Yeah.
They're like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, and it's just like striking at them and shit. Just put the goddamn thing in the bag and call it a day, man. But that doesn't make good TV.
Right.
It's
just
and
like everything. Sensationalize it, right?
That's how I handle all my snakes. I grab them and then whip them around and wave my arms about like an idiot.
And then you act surprised when they want to bite you.
Okay.
Yeah.
and this is why sometimes, as much as I love Steve Irwin, I think about like the whole idea of like, is what he, where's that balance of like, yeah, he got the message of conservation out there, but at what cost? You know what I mean? So now it's like, it's like, okay, well, in order for people to watch this, I have to do this crazy shit where they're not going to watch it. And I think like I'm watching David Attenborough, and I'm like, well, he's not doing anything like that. And I enjoy that more than I enjoy the sensationalism bullshit. But I don't know. That's just me. But I think the average public wants to see, that. And then it makes you think about like, are sharks perceived this way? You know what I mean? You start to think about species that you don't
100%.
actually. Yeah, it's like, oh, we have a whole week dedicated to, how this person
Shark
got
murder.
attacked by a shark.
Yeah,
And
right.
it's just like, oh my god. It just
Great
makes
whites
you wanna
jumping
go
10
crazy.
feet out of the air with the seal in their mouth.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
pretty sweet, but I know what you're saying.
I mean,
Well, it's easy
No.
to take an image or a video clip and put
Right.
whatever spin you want on it.
That's-
When people are only seeing it through a box, they can't argue what
well,
the
that's
heck
the other
is
thing
happening.
is that one of those shows was on. Like I was watching something and then I went and did stuff and I came back and my TV was still going. And that swamp people catching snakes crap was on, and they're talking about the Burmese pythons invading the Florida Everglades. And I'm like, that is a diamond python, sir. Like that is like that is B-roll footage of a diamond. Like you don't even know what the fuck you're doing. Like,
Yeah,
and it
that's-
was
Man.
You're so
Yeah.
right, Owen. I've seen that on Animal Planet so many times, right? And they'll be talking about some species, and they put a picture of another species up.
Yeah.
They're
You
talking
would
about
think
like
that would be the thing they get right on the channel called Animal Planet.
Animal Planet.
Well, that's the thing is,
You're-
and then they're like, not
in the
only are
words
the
of
birds
Owen, You have one job.
You have one fucking job. And this thing is like, and they're talking about this thing. It's like, not only is it dangerous Burmese pythons, but alligators and native venomous snakes. I'm like, you mean the shit that's supposed to be there? Like, it's been there for millions of years. You're right. Okay.
Yeah.
Go on. Like it. Yeah.
People are ridiculous, man. It's the outrage culture. It's the sensationalism. It's the shock value.
It plays off of they play off of each other. It's a feedback loop, right?
Disgusting.
We're like sensationalize, offended. How could you? And it just goes round and round and round until everybody's as pissed off as they can possibly.
We got to a point where Animal Planet was like, watch this man get eaten by an anaconda. And that was a thing. And people tuned in for that.
Yeah, you know what's funny is Paul Rosalie, who did that, he was so pissed off at the way they spun that. They narrated it, and they made it
bad for the guy. But you should have known that was going to happen.
He regrets doing that for sure.
Good.
I think Joe Phelan had him on his podcast a couple years ago, and it was a great interview. Paul Rosalie is an inspiration.
But so here's the thing is like, so when Eric and I were doing the Cage of Death, which is more like the Tube of Boredom, they're like for an extra $20. So
we apologize to everybody at the Australian Reptile Park.
Sorry.
Tube of Boredom.
Well, it's like, listen, you have a nesting mother over there. Why are you lowering me in this guy's cage? Put me over there. Like, I want to go over there. Like, show me what goes on in that cage. But it's
they're like, how confident they are about that tube.
I know, right? Yeah. But it's like, so
they're like, for $10 until somebody cuts the cable and you lost
to
interesting. Yeah.
Or it's a tube of boredom until somebody poops in the tube.
I mean, yeah, but so it's like they were offering us photo packages, and they're like, oh, for like a certain amount, we'll use the really good cameras. We'll have this thing you guys can like look all scared and upset that you're being lowered into the croc cage. I'm like, you told me it's 100% safe, right? Oh, it is. I'm like, then why would I look scared? Like, I don't. Also, your crocs are very well fed, and they don't seem like they even want to be here. Like, it's all right, lower me. But it was just something else where it's like, people will do that. They'll look shocked, awe, scared, screaming, and just as a play off of the fact that it is a potentially dangerous animal. It's the reason you're watching an animal show and the croc shows up and it's dramatic music. Like,
we'll probably never have a society where that isn't a thing, but I think one of the future goals I hope we'll continue to see is the prevalence and mainstream growth of reptiles in the average household these days. I think we're seeing that a lot because of COVID. I see it directly during my 9 to 5. I see how much growth the hobby is experiencing right now. And hopefully that means over time there will be less of a stigma or a fear or a taboo across the board in a greater way, especially with the younger generation getting into it.
It's
so we see less of the persecution over time.
Yeah, it's kind of like you fight bad information with better information,
right?
So how do you get people to tune in to? You got to, we have to figure out a way to sort of get that message out there without sensationalizing. But you hear it all the time, like when they talk about venomous keeping and whatnot. But I think Phil Wolf, he did. I don't know if he has it on YouTube. I know they were talking about doing a series on YouTube for it, but I have no intention of keeping venomous. I don't want venomous, but I found his presentation of he was working with the cobras, and he was what are they, rank calls or something like that? I don't know if I'm saying that right, probably not. But anyway, he did a short little clip on it, and I was tuned in, but it wasn't none of the that kind of shit. But I don't know. Hopefully,
it's not like whipping it above his head, like
Carly said here,
smoking a cigar.
Carly said, "I helicopter all my bull snakes."
What was it? What was the It was God. I don't remember, but it was like the only way to calm the cobra is we smoke and then we blow smoke into the cage, and this settles the animal, and we just and then we just keep blowing smoke in there.
It's
and then
not
we're
a
able to handle
beehive.
it. I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, no, any snakes can be like, shit, everything's on fire. Like, it's not a beehive. It's not gonna calm it. It's just gonna be like, I need to get the hell out of here. Like, yeah, no, dude. So I don't understand that. I don't
Carbon
understand
monoxide poisoning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, what we do is we take out all the oxygen until the
then it's
snake
chill.
goes to sleep, and then we can easily handle it and hope it comes back. Like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like with fruit flies. Oh, you put them in the fridge for a few seconds, a minute or two.
So you try to kill them, is what you're telling me, and then they're calmer for you.
Yeah, they don't move when they're dead.
I mean,
Yeah.
basically, what we decided is to kind of get better, I guess, to drum up more publicity for NPR is we're going to introduce one venomous snake into Eric's room that he records in every episode and see how far we can get into the season before something
I have
kills
to find it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Like
like
Easter
an
egg
Easter egg hunt. Mhm.
The lights turn off,
Nice.
and then the door opens, door closes, lights turn back on. You don't know what's been added.
And then we'll be sitting here, and all of a sudden, in the background behind Eric,
shit.
a king cobra starts like periscoping up behind him and growling at him.
Yeah. That'll drum up some more publicity. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll hit
waiting
up
to see the crop.
some video editors, and they can make it all crazy. Is the gator coming out?
Is it coming for you?
Or a croc gator.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Oh,
They're no Crocs, dude.
yeah, I think so.
Not where you're at.
I know I said croc. You know, the cool thing is like right where I'm at, they found an actual American crocodile.
Oh, nice.
And I went down to the marshes, or not marshes, the mangroves to see. I don't know, see if maybe you could find one or whatever. But it was cool. Like I like doing those kind of videos because I think that you know, one thing that I always am trying to look for is like inspiration for naturalistic setups and stuff.
Mhm.
And you know, everybody's always focused on taking pictures of the animal and all, but they don't take pictures of the environment or, you know, stuff like that. So
Right.
I don't know.
You were doing that in Australia. It was like you were like time for some sort of habitat porn, and you were just taking pictures of whatever we found around.
Oh yeah,
So yeah.
yeah, because you never know. Maybe one day, if I need that for an article or a magazine or a book or a website or whatever, then I got my own pictures of that,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
so.
pretty awesome.
We already said Eric's going to write the book of all like the stuff we did and was all the scientific and the other stuff, and then I'm going to write a pop-up version of the same book of Owen and his friends exploring Australia. So,
It's like the
Oh,
beardy
man.
version of
yeah, pull the tab and Eric will find the carpet.
The OP falls out of the tree right into well-placed hands.
Yep.
How did this happen?
Yeah.
You should make it into a choose your own adventure book. It's like if
Mm.
Owen
Oh, there you
touches
go.
the snake tail, go to page 64.
Yeah. Yeah, had her. Yeah,
End of story. Owen dead.
going dead. Yeah, don't touch it.
And they all lived happily ever after. except
Should Owen
who
touch it
died.
or wait for Rob and to tell him it's okay?
Wait for Rob, page 2.
Wait for Rob, page 2. Rob says no.
So circling back to seasonal stuff, Eric, have you started introducing your diamonds or cooling
No.
your diamonds and stuff?
Oh yeah.
He's
Yeah,
in
that's
Florida.
prob-
How is he introducing them?
Shush you.
I think so. I tried to read them last year. I got locks and everything like that. I think that the female that I have on breeding loan just wasn't acclimated to my spot.
Mhm.
But it's looking pretty good. I'm probably most excited about producing them more than anything. Almost to the point where it's like I don't know if I'm going to breed a whole lot this year. You know, the more I don't know, man. I have this thing in my head where I keep going back and forth where like it seems like I'm trending more towards keeping side of it and
Mhm.
observing behaviors and stuff than wanting to like breed you know, I don't know, 25 clutches of whatever.
Mhm.
But you know, I don't know. I mean, breeding is still behavior, and it's nice to sort of this piece off the list, if you will. But I don't know. I find it's kind of like you guys, Lucas. You'll understand this for sure. It's like when you like learn learning guitar. Here I go, Owen, with my guitar analogy. Right? You spend all this time trying to learn lead,
And then you just want to hit the
but you
changes.
forget about rhythm
Uh-oh.
90% of the time, right? And
You broke up there on that sentence.
Oh shit. Figures. Owen must have pushed a button. God.
Yeah.
If I had the ability to push buttons and upset your like guitar ranting, I'd have shown my hand by now.
So what I was saying is that like when you're practicing and learning to play guitar or any instrument, but I'm gonna go with guitar, you spend most of the time learning how to play lead, right?
Right.
But when you're
Right,
actually playing in a band and you're playing in real life, right? You're playing rhythm most of the time.
Absolutely.
So like you never focus on playing rhythm. You focus on this lead part of it, which is like this month. So it's like similar to like people and breeding. Like it seems like you focus all your energy and observations and time and all that. What are you laughing?
I'm laughing at Owen laughing. I don't know why he's laughing.
No, because it's like that's Eric's analogy. He's hitting all the chords and getting everything right, and I'm just the guy who took the guitar and smashes it into the amp, and somehow it's music. So, it's just,
but like I mean, like like with breeding or keeping snakes, right? Think about it. Like as a breeder, you're really just concentrated on getting to the breeding season, right? You're food cycling to the breeding season, or you're
raising up animals to the breeding season.
Correct. And like you're not enjoying the trip to the breeding season. You're just sort of like, always focused on that. And I would like to focus more on that other side of it, the behaviors and like, because like take humidity, for example. This is always a hot topic with carpet pythons. I think sometimes with carpets in particular, it's hard to really understand what they really want or need because they're so resilient, so they'll, even if you screw it up and don't give them humidity, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, they don't need humidity. Well, is that true? Or is it just that they're so resilient that they can sort of just bypass your error? And, I think about, Chris Salemi talk about this all the time, right? Especially where I'm at and Owen's at up in the Northeast, it gets cold during the winter. And, humidity is that low. And it's dry air that we're forcing in, that dry heat that forces it. Well, I don't know, but I would imagine that their mucous membranes get dried out. And I would imagine that this is why we see, respiratory infections and such during that time. You're stressing them out because it's breeding, which is stress. And, that humidity would help keep those, their airways and stuff, just moist or whatever, which I think, I don't know. I just the thought that I had, like, so when it talk about humidity, I don't know. I just think that that's something that's overlooked. And I'm not saying that you spray your cages down and all this stuff, but like, those are the kind of things that fascinate me is like, what do they really need that? I don't know. Right. What do you guys think?
And part of a complicating factor with any of those types of questions with snakes and most reptiles is that it's very difficult for us to they're not good at signaling to us in our mammal terms how they're doing, what they're experiencing, right? Like we can't easily identify when something is always, whether they appreciate it or not, right? Because they don't emote the same way. They don't have facial expressions. They don't vocalize, right? So at least the way that I try to combat that is the concept, just offer it and the snake will either use it or it won't. And that should tell you what you need to know. At least it has the option. It's a really interesting, I sent the paper to our chat. I just read a really interesting paper by Berghart, who basically kind of in a way rebuked the idea of enrichment and said, really, we should be calling it controlled deprivation. Just kind of the theory there being, enrichment kind of implies that we're doing more or like we're going above and beyond somehow, when really you're never going to get close to a natural setting. It's really more just controlling the deprivation to be more ideal, right? And that's something I've been thinking about a lot. It's an interesting concept.
There was I don't have I don't know who wrote the paper, but Chris sent me the paper, and it was basically, and it was about vipers, but they were saying about how snakes activity is highly motivated by humidity, more so than temperature. Which to me, I don't know, I found that interesting, but I don't know. It's just something that I found it interesting that when we talked to Lori and she did offer Bradley, sorry, humid hides, they took advantage of it, so, and then you start to think about, you think about where they're from and how dry it is and how, but they're just sitting in these tree hollows and stuff, which I'm sure, as you know, Owen, from being there, it's you go into these little micro habitats and they're, that's how they're getting that humidity,
and being from somewhere so hot and dry might be the reason that they do seek out little pockets of humidity, right?
Yeah. It's funny that you bring this up because my boss talks about this a lot to me and to customers that come in, because we get a lot of people that buy bearded dragons or like little sulcatas or things that tend to be like arid, hot, dry in like the public's mind. And as far as how we care for them in the shop, we actually like make sure they get a lot of humidity and sprayed and misted and soaked down regularly to keep sure they're hydrating, because these animals won't drink from water dishes oftentimes. And we find that people have the biggest problem when they take these desert animals and give them like no moisture. And my boss will swear up and down, and I see it all the time, that he's like, almost all reptiles need humidity in a decent fashion more than we suspect, because even in like the desert, they seek these underground pockets where there's more insulation and moisture and groundwater retained in there, or under roots of trees or bushes that are in the middle of nowhere that have sequestered just the littlest amount of moisture, and they're in there. So, hot or warm and humid, warm and wet, warm and humid, good, cold and wet, bad. But, all these little things, like, and you just be surprised at how much moisture these animals really do get. Like Uromastics, we think, okay, they need it 0% humidity, 100 degrees all the time, but they dehydrate if you don't give them moist access to greens, like, just pay attention to some of these things. And it's like, I think we might have misunderstood a lot of these desert and high heat animals for the longest time. Like, retics are a great example. High heat and humidity.
Yeah, I think that's why I've always struggled with green trees, and I think that's why I struggle with short tails, because I was under the idea in my head that, well, you keep them just like pythons. Why would they be different? And I think especially with green trees and short tails, probably more so with green trees. I think that a lot of the issues, that people have with them have to do with just that, and how do you balance that humidity with not having it, like you said, cold and wet, as opposed to, humid and hot, and having that in a box, and how do you control that? And, I don't know. It's just, I think like, maybe prolapse is because of that, because they're so, it becomes so dry for them, I don't think that they're as resilient as carpet pythons. And I think that, and even you take like rough scales, right? Where do you find rough scales? Yeah, they're in the Kimberley, but they're in these like pockets in these gorges where, it's
microclimates.
Yeah. So like, I don't know, my perception of that, I don't know, it just changed when you actually go there and you feel it. And, I don't know. That's why I love getting in the environment of these things. It's like, maybe if, I hope that reptile keeping gets to the point where people, and I know it's not feasible for everybody to do this kind of thing, but think about it. Think about how much money the four of us spent on snakes over the time.
No.
I can't think about it. It's
no,
too
Right?
painful.
No,
So,
you
like-
never know. What's wrong with you,
So,
sir?
like,
You
I'm
never
sure,
count.
I'm sure,
Guilty.
I'm sure that you guys have spent as much money as like if you took a trip to Madagascar to find out about, hognose that are there, or Australia,
Probably like
or whatever.
3 times
you know?
that.
Yes.
Right. So like,
Lucas is crying.
Is this an intervention?
what's the matter?
You upset the intern.
I did it again. Damn it. I don't know. These are thoughts that go through
I
my
could
head,
have a bowling eye.
No, I agree, and that little bit of what you were talking about has made me think about like how people approach maintaining aquariums, and maintaining aquariums can be tricky if it's small because the water values can change so dramatically with the
Oh, yeah.
littlest bit. But if you put it like a 400-gallon aquarium is much easier to maintain the water levels versus a 9-gallon. Even if you've got appropriate filtration and stuff, you're going to be doing more, intermediate cleaning and water changes and things on a 9-gallon. Whereas with a 400, you've got a lot more stability and it doesn't change as frequently.
Yeah.
And I think about that and how it applies to husbandry of non-aquarium stuff. And you think about like, okay, how have zoos been able to keep these animals, but like the private sector is like still catching up in some instances, not all. And I think about like, I think about this exhibit that I saw back at St. Augustine 4 years ago, and they had this massive enclosure, the size, it was like 10, 12 feet tall. It was this huge thing.
Yes.
And there's like a 10-foot scrub up there.
Yes,
There
I saw
was
that.
a pair of bloods on the ground when I
White
was
lips.
there, and white lips all in this massive enclosure.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yep.
And I got to think that it's easy for them to maintain a stable humidity and heat gradient and climate in that larger enclosure with all the weather variables and the variables of the building and the doors open and people being in there and the seasons in Florida and all this stuff. It's easier to do on a bigger scale than a smaller one because the temperature in a smaller environment can change faster and easily as a bigger one. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think about that all the time, dude, and I completely agree.
There was was it the Bavard Zoo down in Florida that I went to? They had emerald tree boas and bushmasters.
Mhm.
A bushmaster in the same cage and a
Mhm.
couple other things. I want to say they had the poison dart frogs, but I think that was like made to look like it was in the same enclosure.
Oh, people do that. Yeah.
But even then, you have several larger animals in there. The Amazons.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, the emeralds were not small,
Mhm.
and then you have a bushmaster in there. Like that's
cool.
that's a lot. to
Yeah,
deal
there's
with.
one at the Oakland Zoo, very vertically oriented enclosure with Colombian
Yeah.
red tails and Amazon.
Yes,
Chilloas.
I love that exhibit.
That's
I
a
love
cool
it. The
one.
red tails are
Yeah.
way up high in the canopy. There's dart frogs everywhere.
Yeah, just
and then there's
all
a few
over.
other snakes in there. And it's this massive wall with live plants, LEDs, UV light, everything. And you get this array of behaviors.
Yeah.
And all they have to do to maintain that is have a misting system that goes on once in a while, keep a couple basking bulbs, and then, maintain the ambient heat of the building, change the water. And it's like, the rest does itself. But if they were trying to do it in a smaller scale, their keepers would be doing much more work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When,
I guess
when
I
Melissa and I
still
move, I'm just going to get a greenhouse and just let all the snakes loose and then maintain them as a giant biodiverse collection. And then,
You and your free range snakes.
free range
I'm
python.
just gonna
I feel
have a
like-
couple really big fat olive pythons after all of that.
Yeah.
I think like like I think of like and I'm gonna go back to breeding, right? We have all these issues that happen during breeding, and I think that we just give up too easy in trying to find out why those issues happen. Like, why do we have slugs? Why do we have why does she retain the egg? Why does respiratory infections and this and that and all these things, and we just, I don't know. I'm glad to see the snake part of the hobby sort of push that envelope, try to better understand. So for me, breeding would be more about understanding how to do it better, if you will, rather than to try to produce the next greatest thing, if you will. I think I'm past that point in my life, my reptile career or whatever. You know, I don't know, but you still need those people too. But I think that if you have a group of people that are trying to, you know, give these animals a better life, if you will, or reduce the stress as much as possible, I think in the long term that's a good thing for the hobby, and I'm glad to see it's sort of pushing towards that way. Because you brought up fish earlier, you know, that you think about that, like, you know, I remember we were in, I think we were at Southeast Carpet Fest, and me and Casey Cannon, and there was a couple other people that were there, Josh, and we were sitting there, and there was this reptile store that was here, and then there was this aquarium store that was here, and you go into the aquarium store, and like, you know, the fish is like $5, but the aquarium is like, you know, $1,000, and they're spending all this money on equipment and aquarium, and it's sort of like what you were saying, you know, they're going big with this, it's much easier to maintain than, you know, having this tiny little, you know, saltwater tank that, you know, crashes or whatever because you want to keep a clownfish or whatever it would be.
Yeah.
But I don't know, just some random thoughts here at Carpet and Coffee.
Carpets and coffee.
Yeah, you know, it's all applicable. It's all relevant. I mean, my approach towards breeding monkey tail skinks all the time in zoos and here at the shop has always been, if you dial in their enclosure and you make sure you pay attention to their natural history needs, vertical, lots of texture, tubes to hide in, pothos, plants and things that, you know, and making sure their diet is on point and that you have a compatible pair. All you have to do is focus on dialing in the husbandry. They will breed for you when they're ready. And it's just all about prioritizing and optimizing the keeping. And your animals will, through their natural behaviors, show you and reward you with your success based on your efforts. And that's a species that you can't just, okay, we're going to drop them and cycle them and feed cycle them, and then they're going to breed every season. That's not how it works with those animals. And so I think about that a lot too. It's very similar to the whole fish thing, you know. You give them the environment they need that does really, really well for them, and they'll do the rest. So,
and I think it's good long term for the hobby, because I think that, you know, it promotes the average person that wants a pet that can have that little chunk of nature in their house. You know, I was watching Doc Martin. I don't know if I sent it to you guys or I sent it to our chat, Owen, with Keith and Rob and that. But you know, his enclosure for his Mertens monitor is insane. Where it's like, you know, it has this huge tank where it's able to like dive in there and chase fish and chase crabs and all this kind of stuff. And like, you know, it's just like, wow, that's impressive. And I don't know any reptile keeper that would not want to have that. Like, I mean, all of us would, even if, you know, you still keep animals and cubs and racks and all that kind of stuff and breed and all that, to have that one animal that's sort of like, you know, your
display, your
animal will, and
your zoo enclosure in the house, you know.
Like your rhino rat, so, and you know, like
that's why I'm you know. We talked about Cody earlier, and it's why it's like, you know, I think Cody's got setup after setup after setup with his venomous is just stellar, awesome, and huge, and I love it. I mean, they're gorgeous. Gorgeous. So,
and he's covered all aspects: lighting, plants, the natural history of the animals, like incorporating that under all the aspects.
To do that. I give him so much credit for going that extra mile with that kind of stuff, and I would love to do that. And it's one of those things of like, I cannot do it in the snake room that I'm in, but you best believe the next upgrade I get, I'm gonna start trying to do something like that, of either larger cages or this, that, and the other thing for, so, you know, like the retics, the Timors, the white lips, you know, if I set them up in a very large enclosure that they don't need me to touch, maybe that's better for them, you know, and that's just kind of one of those things. So
I think the more this hobby goes through the shift, the more folks like you guys and us, we all need to make sure it's very clear for people to understand that it's okay to not be doing it right now, and acknowledging that you'd like to do that in the future, and then whatever process and time it takes to change that, if that's what you're you're trying to do, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think people need to feel guilty about the fact that they've been keeping in a certain way and now shift or want to shift. I think that's natural. And I think the tub shaming, the rack shaming, all of that stuff needs to disappear, because all of the people that are doing it are benefiting from the people who have bred things in tubs and racks for the pet industry like them. And I think we need to just
100%.
acknowledge and be fully open about that. And it's nice to see that there is a big shift towards people, you know, trying to keep fewer animals in better conditions, or, you know, but like there needs to be a complete and honest acknowledgement that not everyone has to do that.
No,
And,
what would be funny is that my rhinos might not breed in the tank. They bred in a rack last year.
Yeah, and within one collection, you don't have to do that across the board for all your animals, you know? Within my one collection, I've got basic minimalistic tubs and racks. I've got naturalistic, and I'm even starting a bioactive bullfrog tank. You know what I mean? Like, and this is the transition we're in. Like, my collection as it stands now is fantastic, but it is in a constant state of flux and evolution, and that's the hobby in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right, Riley. It's like, oh, sorry, Lucas, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I was just gonna say that there's definitely a progression that everybody has to go through. I think that, well, it doesn't have to go through, but tends to go through, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like that whole thing that all the fishermen talk about, where at first you just want to catch a fish, and then you want to catch as many fish as you can, and then you want to catch the biggest fish, and then you want to catch fish the way you want to catch the fish, right? It's like you can apply that same kind of thinking to the reptile hobby, where it's like first you want a snake, then you want all the snakes, then you want maybe the biggest snake, or, you know, something like that, or the rarest snake, and then you figure out what you actually want.
Right.
And I think that you can kind of point out that trend for sure.
Yeah.
I
think we're seeing a lot of positive shifts and changes in the way we keep, and it's really exciting. I mean, I get kids that come into the shop and get their first snake, and if they're engaging and I had this conversation, I can just tell them, like, dude, this is the most exciting time to be keeping reptiles and snakes right now. Like, it really is.
100%.
100%. To your point, Riley, it's like, you know, actually, you know, Lucas, you have a somewhat decent sized collection, but if you want to compare it to, say, like me, Owen, and
it's
Riley,
tiny,
right? You know, to make that shift, to turn that boat, just doesn't happen like that. You know what I mean? Like, because what do you do with all those animals that you have? Do their lives become not as valuable? So, like, you know, I think that just sort of what you're saying, Riley, is like, you know, understanding that, you know, I think there has to be understanding for both sides, right? The side that for the people that keep racks, they have to stop, like, trying to, you know, I guess, you know, legitimize their way of keeping, if you will, and not even take a chance to sort of look at the other side of how we could do it better. You know, it's like the old saying that we've said it a million times on NPR over the years: if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like, why would you change it? It's working. Everything seems to be good. Like, you know, and then on the other side, to realize that, you know, this is how we came into the hobby. Like, you know, Owen and me, and I guess Riley, I don't know, Lucas, you seem to be more of the type of keeper that came in from that naturalistic side, looking at your enclosures and such. But like, we came in where it was, you know, get as many as you can, and you want to have, you know, the most current projects, and, you know, be cutting edge, and, or if you're not cutting edge, you're not legitimate or whatever. So,
breeding,
you know, how do you fit? So how do you fit all those things and juggle all those things? And so, like, that's how we were trained coming into the hobby. Whereas, like, this next generation, they don't understand that. Like, they don't understand that, you know, just as you're being taught to keep naturalistic and you know, all these things, that's not how we were taught to keep snakes. Right.
Yeah.
And now a lot of people are making the push to try to understand it better, which is a great thing. You know, I remember reading The Art of Keeping Snakes, which is a great book. And, you know, that came out a long time ago. And I was thinking, wow, that's pretty awesome, because ultimately we want that little chunk of nature in our house, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's really what it comes down to. And
Mhm.
if you can have it to where it really looks like the outback of Australia, I mean, what's better,
Right.
or
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's gonna fuel
the
your
jungle in
hobby
South
passion
America, or
and your fire for a lot longer than say a more based objective project,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
once you hit that, okay, you did it. Now what? Right?
yeah,
Where on the other side of things, like if you have
right,
such an intricate setup like that and you're working to mimic natural settings, right? You're studying so much more than just the snake, and that will, be fresh and interesting for years,
Yeah.
if not a lifetime, because
Yeah.
it's an impossible task. You're working to perfect something that can't be perfected. So you're never going to run out,
correct.
I'll take it. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, that's great. That's
Eric,
hilarious.
Harry Potter is a fictional character who is a wizard. Okay, I just wanted to explain
Yes,
that one
I
to
know.
you.
Unlike
Hobbits
Bigfoot.
Just
know
making
that
sure.
Is
kind of
it just the
stuff,
glasses?
Okay, you should. The different genre, buddy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Same concept and genre.
The
Yep.
boy who lived. That's right, because
There you
Owen
go.
tried to drown me in the river as a child.
Only the one time, and it made you stronger. You're welcome.
Is Timmy in the well?
Timmy, well, good.
Bark, bark, bark. Oh, by the old mill.
Always the old mill.
Yeah.
I love it. Nice. I do have a snake named Emma Watson because we were watching Harry Potter when Nick sent her over.
Oh my God.
That's a deep cut for me, but
Says the man with the squirrel.
Thank you.
not by
Yeah.
choice. Not by choice. I didn't. Not my squirrel. So, but
Shit, you're a fake
Speaking of
Ben Oliver.
speaking of improving keeping and things in this transition we're in, there's a product that I saw that came out recently via Specialty Enclosure Designs in collaboration with another individual who designed them. And you know how they have all the perches that stand or are custom fit to the tubs, the rectangle ones, things like that. They have these new ones that are like, you just poke a hole in the side of your tub, put these brackets in, and then it zip ties a little bar to it, and they come in different sizes based on the width of your tub, and you can add a perch in any tub for like $10 or $9 or whatever it is a piece.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
it's like there's different sizes based on the width of your tub, and now you can very affordably and easily do it for baby tubs. You bet your ass that I am going to get a bunch of those things, because after giving some of my Popwins those suspended water bowl trays that I used to use with the Amazon tree bows I had, and seeing how they really, after a few months, kind of gravitate towards them. And we always talk about how stubborn feeders, sometimes you just got to give them a perch. The other thing I think about is it allows for more use of the vertical gradient. So if they're only on the ground, they're only getting a horizontal gradient. All of a sudden, they've got more depth and things. I just think that like that's another piece of the progressive puzzle towards improving our keeping, but marrying sort of a naturalistic approach with a minimalistic, sterile breeder mentality kept into the fold, because you can use these. So like if people want to do a tub naturalistic setup with the glass front and have it all natural, they can use those same perches but put like a natural stick on or something like that. Anyway, I just think it's the perfect manifestation of how some folks are already ahead of this conversation we're having right now. They're already they're 5 years ahead of us. They're thinking about like, okay, the naturalistic hobby isn't going anywhere. The minimalistic part of breeding and keeping things sterile and clean and easy to decipher isn't going anywhere. How can we find a middle ground? Or like just, acknowledge that the folks doing naturalistic things are offering a little more options, and that's good.
Right.
But how do we do that without condemning this style of keeping? How can we find a halfway point? And I think those things are don't get me wrong, all the perches, all the products, David Brahms and his
I love them.
They're fantastic. It's completely innovative. You can't deny it. All the enclosure companies out there right now, it's fantastic. But those little perches, man, there's like practical use for rhino rats, for corn snakes, for ball pythons, even because you can add a couple perches on it and make it more of like a platform for heavier bodied snakes that might occasionally climb. Like I saw those and I was like, oh, I need to do some math and figure out when I can buy a bunch of these things.
It goes back to the point that it's like it doesn't matter what the box is, like cage or rack. They're a box. It matters what you do with the box. Like you can keep terrible in a cage and great in a rack, or vice versa. Like what are you putting in the box? Like,
And to be completely honest, I got those 3D printed the inserts for the 15 quart tubs. They're taller than the 5s. And I put last year's breadlight in there when they got a little bit too big for the 5 quart tubs. They gained a ton of like just weight, muscle. Like they're probably the biggest yearlings I ever had, as far as it. And I do not feed as much as I used to. So it's like just because they're moving and they're climbing and they're doing all this other stuff, and they just grew. And I took my holdback Carmel Exanic out of the 5 and I put him in the 15, and he's now the biggest out of all my 2020 babies. Just because
I have to think that aerobic activity is translating more from the nutrition and sequestering it more into growth, because they're active more via additional perching and the extra environmental stimuli that you've included in there.
And muscle development too. Totally. If it's the use it or lose it concept for sure.
And my 2019s are now, I have to move them into 32s because now they're too big for the 15s. And it's like having those perches in there have done great. My 5 quarts aren't really conducive for the ones that he had before, but I was looking at the ones that Riley's talking about adding some small perches to those, because mine are not, they're 5 quarts, but they're like wider than they are taller. On one rack, and then the other rack it's a normal 5 quart bin. But I was thinking about looking at those in the same way as Riley's, because it helps so much with these other ones. So who knows?
And I think it lends towards the confidence. I always talk about confidence, but like I've got a 2-year-old animal still in a baby tub, because in the open enclosure done in a minimalist style, she is not confident. What I would love to do is get some of those perches, put them in there, put her little tub inside, give her that transition phase at her own pace. But if David Brahms is listening, what I would love to see developed is if he takes that same, like just poke something into the walls of any size tub, make a suspended hide box that can then just slide into that, like just a little plastic. It could even have like one panel that just pops off and snaps into place or something or whatever. But like, I would love to see, you know how people have taken the plastic hides and put them upside down in cages? What if we can do some sort of like take the same approach that David has with the 2 brackets that sit in the side, and then you've got a 3D printed little, it could even just be a shelf. The lid of the rack can be the actual top to it. It can just be like a little thing, but it slides right into those simple tracks. I mean, that would be sweet. I would love that for babies. Oh my goodness. Imagine
any way that you're able to add like surf or like floor space, not on the floor, right? If it's on the side, if it's on the ceiling. We always see making your enclosure bigger by not making it bigger, but you know what I mean?
You're adding more usable real estate, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be that the animals are arboreal. The fact that there's a ledge up there, what you've done is you've given them like a shaded covered area, and they'll eventually just kind of go up the side and realize, hey, there's another platform, and all of a sudden you've maximized that 3-dimensional space. And Garrett Hartle does that with his retics a lot. Brian Cusco took his 8-foot cages, which are bigger than what most people give as adult retics, and made awesome shelves that are like, they add an additional like 9 square feet in there. And that's, you know, it gets the animals going up and doing things, and it puts a little microclimate where the humidity is retained under that shelf. So
I think about, you know, in the early days when I was getting into carpets, you know, where we were told that they're semi-arboreal, and you know, I've said it. I think Owen have said it. I think guests we've had on have said it. Like, you know, we offered a carpet a perch, and it doesn't perch. You know, and I think there's a couple thoughts I have with that. Number one, wherever you find carpet pythons, there's trees, right? Now, I'm not saying they spend all their time in trees. But if you look at even like, breadlie, think about it, right? I guess they're going in rocky crevices and stuff like that as well. But like, all along those water courses to where they live, right? It's just these trees are there, and they're moving around the trees and such. Maybe we're offering the wrong type of perch. So what made me think of that is like, and remember when we saw the Darwin, it wasn't like a chondro perch where it's a perch like this, right? And they're gonna drape like a chondro. I don't think carpets do that. I think carpets are more like they're either a couple things, right? They want to be up, but they want to be able to be secure. Where you see a lot of guys where they're doing that, that arboreal hide type of thing, where it's
shelf,
to the top, where a track, right? Or I remember even talking about the cage Anthony Caponetto did with AP, where he had the shelf in the back. I don't even think that's what they're looking for. I think they want those. Let me see.
Look, a snake.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
that apparently is some sort of Papuan python,
right? So I think
she doesn't perch. She does not perch like a chondro. She drapes like more like a tree boa.
They do that, and that's just that they need to have either thicker branches or shelf
points of contact.
I'm planning on getting shelves for sure when I get 6-foot cages for.
And that's how I cheated. Is I got the bins because they use the top of the bin, the lid. As long as you keep the lid intact, it's like a shelf. So yeah, I cheated. So
that's smart. You're getting 2 for 1 there.
Yeah,
it's not cheating. It's
innovation.
Being efficient.
Anyway,
there you go.
But and you remember talking in the early days to different people to where we would talk about carpets being semi-arboreal, and everybody would say, they don't perch, so we don't even give them a perch. It's like
yeah.
But maybe it's just the type of perch that we offered was the wrong thing.
Well,
and
I mean,
that makes me think, like, what else can we do better as far as that goes? Like, we're just negating the fact that, and again, carpets are so hard to figure out because they're so freaking resilient, man. They just
roll with
adapt, whatever. It's like, okay,
I
don't have a tree. I have a barn. I live in an attic, whatever it would be.
Yeah.
See? Yeah.
When I had the big log in there before the pine beetles ruined it, my big Brettles was always off the ground as well.
I wish I had taller cages so that I could add a shelf that would be either higher or roof hides on my guys. So it's like the next iteration. Yeah, I mean, like I almost wish that, like, you remember that they used to have the carpet cage, which was really
the Anthony Caponetto carpet cage, 3 foot with the shelf. It was
3 foot.
I think you should still order it.
It's 15 tall, 3 feet wide by 2 deep.
Right,
still there, right?
I almost wish it. Like, I almost want it to be 18 or 16 tall.
Yeah,
because I want more height for that shelf because they can get it. It just would be one of those things. Is like I almost feel like the carpet cage should be 2 foot and then like maybe 3 foot and then something like that. So
you know what I think of all the time when we're talking about that is Python Pete's old enclosures. I think Eric, you shared a photo of that last year or something in the chat, and I've got it like burned into my brain. This wall of jungles, and they're all in like 18 by 18 by like 3 foot enclosures or something like that, with a singular basking spot, shelving options, bedding, water bowl, hide on the ground, a lot of foliage, perching across. And in this photo, you see animals at different stages in the enclosure, but it was a whole wall of jungles in that same style enclosure. And that was like a founding to our early carpet python husbandry, and how far we've gotten from that is astounding.
Was Phil Starkey over at Star Python?
So like
he's set up in cages and stuff like that. He's got a ton of those kind of big cages, lots of shelves, stuff like that.
Like the ladders.
Yeah, but I think
he does shelves that are in the corner.
Yeah. Oh, he does the 2 corners. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So the other thing is Germany has regulations about that, so they have to have certain opportunities and sizes for their animals. That's a regulation thing too out there.
I think the thing that I don't like about the carpet python AP cage with the shelf is that's a solid shelf, right? I think it should be more like that. You know what I mean? Make them shorter shelves, right? Almost like cut the shelf in half and give them more options for that
one
shelf.
one taller than the other, one higher than the other.
Real tight
There's
to
a
the
delay.
top, right?
Your arms were still like
yeah,
this.
your internet's getting worse.
Is it? Oh, shit.
You're like, they should be like this. It's like that's a level thing, dude. It's
That's
like,
the same thing.
same.
Oh,
That's
look,
better.
he's
I don't know.
crystal clear now. Look
Yeah.
at that beautiful face.
But yeah, I like that idea of staggered shelves. That's cool.
Options are better. The more options you have
Yeah,
for the animal, it will handle itself. It'll take care of itself. It's why we always say, like, when the female's getting ready to lay eggs and she's moving shit around, don't put it back. That's she's
Leave it.
doing this for a reason. Like,
Right.
so if you give them more options, they will do this. It's like how people online will be like, oh, my snake is always up on this one shelf. Yeah, that's because it really likes that shelf, and that's perfect. Make the rest of the cage like the shelf if you want it moving other places. Like it. So, and it's just one of those things where if you do it correctly, if you've set it up correctly, the animals will take care of themselves, and you really just need to clean up and provide food, and that's all you should have to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in there adjusting every day, stop. Like you're doing it wrong. So,
Right.
Yeah.
And
I think like if you took that shelf and moved it around, if you made that top shelf, the one that's all the way at the top, make it just tight enough so that, like, if it were a hide, you would be able to make that shelf be like those little hide boxes because it would be so
like
tight.
a snug,
really cram in there. Yeah.
So they could cram in there and
2.5
feel
inches
secure.
from the ceiling or something.
Right, just sort of hang out. Where I screwed up when I bought those AP cages for the diamond pythons, they're too short. They're just too short. I can't get any kind of basking or anything. So now I'm just going to build my own, but I'm going to focus more on height than I will, obviously it still length will be there, but to me that height is more important than anything because
you can do more with the height. Than you can with the length.
You could, Eric, you could always get creative. I remember seeing Jacob Bratz doing this a lot when he was tinkering with some of these ideas of getting PVC, and I did it for my Apodora. I have one over there, but you could make just a little square table sort of shape out of cheap, affordable PVC, and then put crosses or even attach like a piece of plastic or something to the top to give it a surface or a tile or something. Chris Sexton, who's in the chat here, he'll share some of his Morelia enclosures at home, and he's got them nice and big, and he's done exactly that, where on one end he's built like a PVC structure. Now granted, he's given us the dimensions. He likes 18 inches tall, which is what we're all talking about, but I've even done it in these. So I've just got the T8s. They're 12 inches tall, and I agree it's not tall enough for what I would ultimately love to do, but I have the cages and they're important. So what I've been thinking of doing is just making some 6-inch little platforms of just PVC, and then having cross beams of PVC in the middle. So it's literally just like an X, but they can still drape like that last carpet I pulled out. And then it can fit inside of these T8s, and I can give them a little bit more height, even though it's not really like arboreal. They're 6 inches off the ground, but it's different, And then the contour of the tube, they have to use their muscles differently. Even if it's only a few inches off the ground, they have to behave differently on that. So I think that's the key is, find something that you can just reinvent for that and utilize the cages that you already have until, you hit the lotto and you can later get a bunch of big fancy ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Eric, just drill holes in your AP cages in like ceiling to floor, and store all the way up the back. And then just keep each cage differently. And then the diamonds will just go up and do their thing, and they'll be all.
You could put a pole through all the way, like a fireman pole.
There you go.
And
they'll climb the way up. They'll spiral up. Yeah.
You can make all sorts of blasphemous hybrids without even trying.
Yeah.
Nice.
I have thought about taking out the lid to the one, like taking the AP cage apart or somehow cutting it so that the two cages became one.
Just get a hole saw.
You could do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just if you wanted to make it like you have like what? How many stacks you got? You like 4 in that stack?
5.
You 5? You bastard, odd number. But why?
He needs one more.
Why would you do that? I'm like, because basically what I would say is, let's forget the 5th one. You have 4. You can make 2 cages. Just drill a bunch of holes and put a bunch of like tube caps and stuff like that.
Oh,
screw them together.
Another thing is, I mean, we always talk about, disposable hides for babies and saving paper towel tubes.
Ooh, I've been doing that.
So if you use like big paper rolls, save the hardcore cardboard tube in there. The other thing I see a lot of folks do with Amazon Trebo is they'll go get cheap corrugated irrigation plastic tubing, because you can cut it with decent scissors or a knife. You can screw through it, no problem, and mount them onto the sides. Get like a little shallow screw and put like 3 or 4 screws in, pop, pop, pop right in the side. And then you've created like a little arboreal tube. The challenge is it's contoured. So if they crap or urinate in it, it's going to be hard to clean it. But, in theory, you could use typical household PVC or things like this. But, you give a snake a tube, they're going to go in it. You give a snake a branch, they're going to climb it. There are creative ways to do this. So, yeah. I think we just got to look outside of our carpet python, circle, and look at what other people are doing for their animals and try and borrow ideas.
Yeah. 100%.
What do you got, Lucas? Your gears are turning.
I just want a beard so I can do that too.
Oh, dude, it's the best.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, we got like baby face. We got a little bit of scruff.
Who's Babyface? Riley? Babyface?
It's like a progression.
No.
You. Look at it.
Crazy.
Smooth. Eric gets his like stubble that he gets in Australia when he's like not shaving, and
Eric's got like George Clooney mode right now.
Oh, he gets salt and pepper. Yeah, we're in the middle
Just
of
like the
middle of the
inland
jungle in Australia, and I'm like, my God, you are attractive. Like
Salt and pepper Eric.
I recycle microwave meal packaging for hatchling hides. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, that stuff is perfect. I mean, it's the same thing when I went to Target and bought a bunch of those little like pseudo rubber plastic cups, and I just cut holes in them, and now I've got like 40 of these little hides that actually fit in tubs.
Yeah, I want to get more of the ones I got for the rainbow boas are snack containers, and I melted a hole in the top,
nice,
and then shoved a bunch of moss in there. And I haven't seen the rainbow boas since I introduced these things. I just dangle the rodent and then they like, do like a sandworm thing and they grab it and then I never see them again. But
I was just going to ask, how are they doing? I haven't heard any reports.
They're living, I guess. I don't know. Something is in their cage that keeps eating their food. So could be them.
Good
could
enough.
Not be them. It's just one of those things where I kind of want to do that for more of my guys. Cause right now I have pipette tip containers as the hides for the babies, the lids. But they're getting old. They're getting kind of, crumbly and stuff like that. So I do want to start switching over to these snacking containers, because then having a hide box that if I can pack it full of stuff for the baby to hide in is better. Also, for spraying it down when they're going into shed, it's definitely good for things like white lips, ring pythons, and stuff like that. So, and as I get into potentially getting those as babies, you kind of want to offer those things. So.
Ooh, speaking of white lip pythons, how's that going?
Bad.
Oh no.
No.
They there was it was like 5 a.m. or something like that, and the dog woke me up. So I go downstairs to let him out, and he goes walking past the white lip cage, and I see the male just nail the female and start I'm like, oh God. So I separated them, and she had a nice gash in the back of her head, and he got bit under the chin, so they both were pretty pretty messed up. So I had to separate them, and we're gonna feed and then reintroduce probably next week. So
why do you think that they're so aggressive with each other?
It's just him. I think it's just him. It's
an individual thing.
Yeah, I think the male's a dick, but it's I think he's just a jumpy asshole. It's one of those things where I think they're very cued in, because the problem is that I drop them low at night, lowest I can get them, but then they come back up into the 80s, high 80s during the day. So they're never cued off of food. So, but I have turned down the amount of food that I offer to them. So they're still torqued up really high. It's almost like when you're starving your carpets in like October, where it's like the food's gone, but that's just their natural setting, which is horrible. But so I think it's just one of those things where she moved and he hit her. And it's one of those things where I think that is going to keep happening if one of them moves in a way that the other perceives as food, they're going to go and they're going to lunge. So it's getting them to turn that off. I don't know, but it almost also looks like she's potentially ovulating too, because she got huge.
Oh, wow.
So it might be nerve-wracking, it might be horrible, but it might be working. So I don't know what to do with that. But the Timors are cuddled up nice, and they're not hurting each other.
Those are pretty.
Mm-hmm. So same thing with the olives. And I did catch the Womas breeding yesterday.
Oh shoot!
Yeah,
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Can I be part of the Espedites Club, please?
Get
I know it's not a black egg.
Submit your application.
Yes.
Are you reviewing it? Because that bodes poorly. So,
Along with
Careful
one
with your
egg
next
or
words.
more.
yep,
If you want to be in the
one
club.
egg or more. Yep, you have to produce something. So
Oh, then I'm not in the club.
But it would be,
Not yet.
and it's just one of those things where it's
I'm
like
not
I
in
would.
the club either.
I would really like to see some of the rarer stuff or some of the different stuff. I haven't seen my rough scales in 2 months. They've been hiding, so I'm not nervous about that. So
Yeah, I know that feeling that you're talking about with the trepidation about when pairing, just to make sure they don't kill each other. Just like when I pair the Crebos, I'm watching the male. I'm like,
and
when she's not receptive, she takes these little bursts, and then all of a sudden his interest peaks. He's like, "What?"
Right.
I'm like, you better not freaking do that, man.
Your Crebo are so much different than mine because mine have been together since October, and I've had no problems, none.
Dude, I don't even leave mine together anymore.
Yeah. I might not get eggs, but I haven't had anything. Last time I paired them, there were some bite wounds and scars on them, but they
might be breeding.
Yeah, they've seemed to have stopped that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure if there's any interest or anything like that. But
are they similar in size?
Yeah, close. Male's a little bit smaller.
See, that's good. I think that's probably the key is like using a younger male who isn't as big as your female, because then you don't have the chance of him eating her, but you got to make sure they're similar enough. See, I screwed myself without even realizing it. I got a male like 8 years ago just because I wanted one. And then I learned about the whole hobby and breeding and stuff over the next 2 years, finally got a female. So by the time my female is 5 years old and big enough, my male is like almost 8. And he's like the size of he's bigger than my damn Breadlie. So, or Breadlie, excuse me.
Breadlie.
So
it's pronounced Breadlie.
We'll never know.
He's a monster. So like, I guess probably to avoid any real concern of one eating another, they have to be pretty close in size. Otherwise, maybe just knowing that they're bigger, there's still that possibility and they see it that way. Because like when she darts past him and if she's not receptive and he moves, I'm like, oh shit, here it goes. Because he looks like he does when I offer him food.
I'll actually separate certain species when I'm going to feed like babies.
Oh yeah.
The white lips, I'm going to feed them again and then put them back together. And then I won't feed in that big, large room again until probably March-ish or February. But when things start warming up, but when I do, everyone's getting separated. Like I'm not doing the olives together. I'm not doing the Timors together. Ain't nobody going to be together when they're getting offered food, because that's how bad stuff happens. I mean, I've had carpets hit each other and stuff like that. So it's
me too.
It's one of those things. And I've also done the dumb thing where I start falling the food, and then I'm like, oh crap, I forgot to separate these animals, which is usually a bloodbath afterwards, because it's like I'm getting ready to feed, and then I look over and both Timor pythons are like this. I'm like, damn, and like, you know, and then that's now they're all pissed off, and then nobody eats. So it's just one of those things where you gotta pace it and don't set yourself up for a bad situation. Yeah. So
right.
I wouldn't even feed king snakes together. No, like just no. So.
Oh, I'm excited to breed Apodorans sometime.
Hey, no, we're not allowed to talk about Apodora. We're not, because they're in my head and they're gnawing at me in like the back of my brain. And they're like, if you get a pair and you grow them slowly, Olin, we'll have time to get into like, you know, a bigger house with more cages, and that's not true.
No, you need blackheads first.
Stop that. That all of that is bad. All of that is bad.
Ooh, I want a snake too.
That's an Apodora.
There you go.
Yeah, that's an Apodora. Good job, Riley.
I'm surprised, Owen, you didn't go for them.
They're in my brain right now, and you know how that works. They're in my brain for at least 2 years, and then they gnaw at me and annoy me, and then I end up getting 3.
The Apodora is on your right shoulder. The blackhead's on your left shoulder.
Yeah, decisions.
This is the intern payback, Owen.
I don't know how you think that's going to happen. I mean, like, I told you we gotta do things first. We gotta pair the black white lips, which has been handled. But then we have to get the ring python set up.
Look at that snake, though, man.
I know. Shut up.
Yeah, look at him. Look at him harder.
And it doesn't matter because Eric's getting the blackheads, so that's fine. I can push off the blackheads until later because Eric will have them, and I'll be fine with that. As far as Apodora, that one hurts. So,
Look at the blue belly.
Yeah, the retics are gone except for one. I still have my one retic that I like that Matt Minatola gave me. So.
Speaking of cool snakes and husbandry improvements, since we talk about it in private all the time, we'll just throw this out here for our listeners. But we have recently been chatting in our discussion about UV and its application with Lucas's false water cobras and coloration.
Yeah.
And
that was crazy.
Yeah, and I noticed a big change with this guy after that fire or the almost fire that I had with this tub. He had access to natural sunlight coming in, photo periods, and he would come up and bask during the day, and he'd be gloriously bright green, and then at night go down and two-tone and become darker. Now that he's in a tub, every time I check on him, he's always dark, and I have to think that's because he's not seeing the light that he was getting through the glass of his previous enclosure while he's in this temporary setup. And so instantly I'm thinking, okay, this guy needs direct sunlight, at least during times of the day. Even if it's just to make his color look better. But I suspect that the color change is just a secondary reaction of the benefits of sequestering those rays. And then Lucas, if you want to give,
Yeah. So my male false water cobra, which I got first, I had him in quarantine, obviously, for a while. And he was really dark, right? Like dark browns, blacks. And then when I finally got him in an enclosure, I put 5.0 UVB in there, and it's just staggering how much lighter he became in a matter of weeks. It looks like a different animal. Like the female I got from Zach Loafman is the quote high gold, which he says is kind of like the American hypo. Like they have real hypo in Europe, we have like selectively bred kind of thing. And this dark normal male is way brighter than that high gold female is now, just because of the UV, and looks like a completely different snake. So I was surprised, and I sent pictures to what is this?
When somebody draws something, because I don't got the talent.
T-shirts with cartoon pictures of
I'm on it.
We'll make it happen. Thank you,
I need
Henrik.
a picture of the squirrel.
Thank you, Henrik. We'll make it happen.
Never, sir. You will
Don't
never
listen to Owen, Henrik. It's happening this week.
Yeah, okay.
I'll just make up a squirrel picture then.
There you go.
I mean, I was about to say, why do you need my
Squirrel's a
squirrel?
squirrel. Squirrel's a squirrel.
There has to be a Florida squirrel around here somewhere.
It's fun to do this while holding a snake.
Eric, go searching for a squirrel. Let us know what you find.
Here's another example. Xavier Walker Exotic says his common boa's color has been much brighter since moving him into a bioactive enclosure with a UVB light over him.
Yeah.
So
I want to give UV bulbs when I get to a new one or something like that.
And I'm
able to. I want lights in my enclosures, to be
and
honest.
I'm not saying that every animal will have such a dramatic change with UVB lights, but I think even just having a photo period in there, like I got some LED lights for Christmas, and I'm going to install them in a couple of these cages, and I have a feeling that even though it's not UVB, it's going to at least be on a natural photo period. And I expect to see different behaviors out of my animals as a result. And I'm really looking forward to it. And, I don't think every species will change, behavior. Like I think a lot of the very sedentary ambush predators probably won't. Right. Things like blood pythons probably won't, change at all. How
often are they soaking up sun rays when they're buried in their palm?
Exactly. Kenyan sand boas, you're not going to see any real change.
They won't be underground.
that's where this whole evidence-based keeping thing comes into play, right?
Yeah.
You got to consult your natural history
Yep.
and think about how they would or would not actually be relying on the
Yeah.
direct sunlight.
Yeah,
And it's okay to take, analogous information from one species and apply it to something that is completely unrelated in safe ways. Like obviously a false water cobra is very different from an apodora, which is very different from a blackhead, but like you don't know how similar they behave biologically and behaviorally until you try it. And I think you can't hurt anything by experimenting with that. So I just think, all these years of talking about UVB, debating whether or not it's beneficial for snakes, I think we're starting to see that even if it's not beneficial, they still utilize light for their day-to-day livelihood.
Sure.
Do you
And
think
there are
that?
certainly... Oh, go ahead, Eric.
I was going to say, do you think that like with UVB, I think about the whole thing that, was going through with COVID and how people said about, how, you have a better chance of your immune system fighting off, COVID if you're taking vitamin D or you're exposed to UV, which is where we get a lot of our vitamin D. But it makes me think like, with snakes, maybe we're too quick to pull the plug when it comes to that. We don't see any benefits, say, on the surface, but is it helping with their long-term health to be able to fight off viruses or different infections that they may possibly get? And I don't know.
I think it certainly can't hurt.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just makes me think. Like, I think with I think red lie is the one that constantly comes to mind for me because you see these wild bred lie, and they're just like the craziest hypo that we would have in captivity.
Right.
And it's just a wild bred lie, and like I don't know. It has to.
I have not seen a picture of a wild bred lie that looks anywhere near as dark as Lazic line, price line stuff.
Okay.
Yes.
They always look. Yeah, come on.
Okay.
They
I
always
was like,
look
wait, where's he
orange
going?
as hell.
Lucas has been living under a rock. Don't worry. He's the intern.
What the Brettles python?
No,
Those red things
yeah,
you have.
And I think we owe it to the future generations of reptile keepers to do that study because it could take 40, 50 years for a species to, run its course. If we're talking like routine experiments, say somebody goes, okay, I'm going to set up half my ball pythons under UV and half under racks. Those animals live 40 years. You're going to have a large sample size, run at the course of those animals' lifetime, analyze the data, and then, you can say anecdotally at the very least,
right,
what your benefits were. And it's going to take a long time and a lot of people and a generation or two, but we owe it to the animals and our next generations to keep trying to find out these answers and potentially improve. And if we find out it's very species specific, which I'm sure we're going to, then what we need to do is collaborate with all these manufacturers and hobbyists and people that are innovating these products and just keep them in the fold, keep them in this progress and keep going. Like, a lot of these folks are hobbyists and reptile keepers. Like Ryan McVeigh is obviously a diehard reptile keeper, and he's the brand rep manager or whatever. I apologize, Ryan, for Zilla. And so he's innovating those products because he is thinking in this way and he's doing exactly that. It just needs more time and more people involved.
I would almost want rack systems to start having because there is a gap in the back of a rack. Let's say it's got belly heat, like where the bin lip hits, and then there's like empty space. I almost feel like, would it kill them to put just 2 LEDs in the back of a rack and then chain them?
Well,
down?
And so that's what I was thinking.
Like getting light into a rack. I mean, making it better.
We can route channels in for heat tape in the bottom of racks. We certainly have the ability to route a little channel that we can run LED strips through. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it would not impede the current function and usability of tubs at all. And at the very least, it would do that. And then, like I was saying a while back, maybe by the time we're getting into that, somebody will have invented LEDs that put out UVB. Who the hell knows?
Yeah.
I'm no expert. I don't even know if that's physically possible, but just saying.
Of course it is. With science.
Will it to happen?
Nothing is impossible.
That Xavier Walker saying, I even moved the UVB away from the hotspot to see if the snake would still seek it out, and it goes and finds it every time. Like
Yeah.
I've heard that
Yeah.
before from other people as well. Like that's easily testable. That's just a choice-based experiment.
Yeah.
You could even have 2 cages side to side with a tube connector. One has the UVB, one has the heat. See what happens. So, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. I think as we're talking about how Lucas's false water brightened up under UV and how this guy brightens up with access to the sunlight,
Right.
I think that is a worthy experiment to try UVB on a group of ring pythons. Deprive some of it.
Bigger. I'll shove a UV bulb.
See what happens.
Yes,
now that being said, I've seen how the aberrant ringed pythons are much browner, and it's just how it goes. And then I've also seen some, normal ringed phenotypes that aren't as bright looking as, say, Glenn Reptiles locally here. His animals are super bright. He's got an amazing female. My boss has one female in particular that's just super orange and
that
bright
one's crazy.
gold. Yeah, so I think
Riley.
Oh, sorry.
You're sending Owen a boy at some point,
man,
right?
Owen, I got bad news. We're thinking she's gonna slug out.
No, you bastard.
She had an ovulation.
Lucas,
she
you
did
have
the
now been
cycle,
promoted to thing 1.
and it was bad. It was not
Riley,
good. She's
you are now
little.
thing 2.
I need it in writing. I don't
All
buy
right,
it.
I'll write it down.
Ooh.
Just kidding.
But
Hey,
yeah, I
would
think there's an application there for sure.
Yeah.
I think it would too. And I also, I think with ring pythons, the unfortunate part is that it varies just because animals, adults, you put shit in, get shit out, stuff like that. So
look, somebody has beat me to it.
Hell. All right.
Well, that's always how new technology starts. It always starts expensive until they improve it and shrink it in size, because we're people and that's what we do. And so I'm very excited to hear that. Henrik, thank you very much for that. That's very exciting.
Cool. Nice.
Very, very exciting to hear. And it's just now it's just a matter of time before that technology improves to a point where we can use it exactly like we're talking about right now.
Yeah. Running some small UV LEDs, I think that would be great. But I think with ring pythons, again, it just depends on the parents, depends on the stuff. And even then it just depends on the individual. Yeah. I also think that if they're anything like white lips, they are. They'll color up depending on their circumstances. I mean, I have right now where my golds can have access to sunlight coming through a window, and they do bask and they utilize it. And I'll say he looks stunning in the sunlight, not so good in the shadow, but it just really is. So I would say that they would probably be the same thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's why I can't get Apodora. I have to get a male ring python. If you want me to get Apodora, I got to get a male ring python first. Riley, come on.
Sorry. I'm jumping ahead. I'm skipping levels.
Steps, baby steps.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get UV on Breadlie and compare.
Oh yeah, I mean they'll color.
I'll definitely do an A/B group and see what happens there.
I mean, and with Breadlie they color up depending on the season too, because all mine
completely
like dog crap right now. But then springtime comes, they all shed. I'm like, oh, that's why I keep you. So
that would make sense, right? I mean, if they're in the wild during the winter, they're winter.
Well, and it's also because it's just the adults, because the adults are going through winter right now, and they're the ones getting darker because they're having the variation in temperature. The babies, because they're still on a single, their temperatures don't adjust like the babies from last year and then the babies from this year. They all look bright red and orange and gorgeous, and so I think it's even something that might even cue them around what temperature is happening to them and things like that. Maybe they got to feel like they got to get darker to absorb more sunlight and more heat.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I think that's pretty
my thought.
logical.
That's definitely
that'll be my doctorate
association to make.
Yep.
I mean,
you can all call me Dr. McIntyre now. Actually, I'm going to make it a stipulation for you interns.
It's really funny, that comment. In all honesty, though, Owen, it's really funny because what we talk about and what we do with our animals in these little experiments are essentially like little master's thesis. That's literally what Lucas is about to do.
Yeah, does hurt me.
Lucas is literally
about drive.
But the only thing is, you aren't putting yourself in crippling student loan debt like
Yeah.
Lucas is for that master's thesis. But he gets a piece of paper that says he's got a master's. We're just assholes that say
we're
it.
just morons. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
I need my little letters at the end of my email sign off. Yeah.
I'm gonna start
Bill,
putting random numbers that or letters that make
Owen
no sense.
McIntyre,
Yeah.
MS
DB4. What the hell does that mean? Yeah, again. May all call me Admiral at this point.
means me super special.
Yeah, that's about right.
Oh man.
We've gone off the rails somehow. I
Yeah.
don't know what
Yeah.
happened here,
Well,
but
we
It's never
started off the
me.
rails,
I'm
so we've come full
I am the
circle.
rails.
right.
Yeah.
So what you're
We-
saying is that Carpets and Coffee is usually a serious, straightforward show, and then I come on and everything goes sideways. Is that what you're saying, Riley?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, no.
It starts off the rails. It gets into a good topic, then it goes off the rails, and then the show's over.
Yeah, it's full circle. And look at that. We did it all in 2 hours.
Oh my god, it's
It's
fantastic.
like it was meant to
Right.
be. So,
I will
and
say-
then
A couple things
go
real
for
quick
it.
about
Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah, I might be delayed. But I was going to say just before we cut off or whatever, we're talking about natural history and all that kind of stuff, and we're working on a show on NPR where it's going to be a series of taking species by species and sort of breaking down that natural history in detail to sort of,
Mhm.
give people, sort of a basis to sort of go off of, if you will.
Yeah.
What am I missing? Something in the chat?
Nothing. No, nothing.
No, Lucas is just
nothing. They're
being
just
a silly
dancing
kid.
for some reason. I don't know why. It's just
So yeah, well, that's going to be a super awesome show coming up. And we'll use this as our segue to wrap this up. For everybody who's here tuning into Carpets and Coffee today, definitely make sure you go check out all the other shows under the NPR network. You've got NPR, which is the OG. If you're listening to this and you haven't listened to NPR, you've done it backwards. You've done it backwards, and that is shameful. It's shameful. Go back. Yeah, what's wrong?
Yeah.
And then there's Humans of Herpetoculture, which is Lucas's show. There's Colubrid Corner, which is Owen and I. There's Carpet Cliff Notes, which is Eric and Owen at times, depending on the episode and availability. And then there's Student of the Serpent, which is Rob and Eric. Now, on top of that, there are more coming down the pipeline. I'm not going to spoil that. You have to stay tuned, subscribe to the network. There's 4 or 5 more, 4 potentially. We'll see.
4 more, yeah.
Four more coming. And then on top of that, NPR has bridged the gap into doing occasional live streams. Not always. They're going to be for special occasions.
Mother says I have a face for radio. So
yeah, so that's going to be up to Eric and Owen. So I'm not going to promise that every show is like that, but they've done it once, and it's going to continue eventually. And
it's
then
going to be the shows that are me and Owen.
Yeah.
When we don't have a guest. Yeah.
Perfect. So you've got a lot to look forward to as a listener, as an audio content consumer. This is a podcast and a YouTube show, so there's 2 ways to look at it. And then you got to go check out everything on the NPR Network's YouTube channel, because we're trying to grow that avenue of the network to help further put out all this good information, bring more people into the fold, monetize the channel so it can pay for some fun stuff for us to be able to continue to get you all new and exciting content from whatever we can dream up. So it's like literally just watching and subscribing helps us. That's all you have to do. That's all we ask for. Then on top of that, if you really want to go balls deep and you're really excited about this $2,000 stimulus check that's coming, go hit the Teespring store. Go type in NPR store and get yourself some swag. Eric and Owen, I'll be pleased to know, and I'm very proud that a good friend of mine who I sold, she didn't like snakes. She now has 2 snakes of mine, including a jungle. She went and bought an E.B. Morelia shirt, Carpets of Coffee mug, a hoodie. She's on it. And she became a patron. So we've also got Patreon that is helping produce more of this content, free up Eric and Owen, kind of validate the work that they've done. You guys weren't here the last week, but Lucas and I kind of kissed your ass a little bit about how Patreon It's not a money grab. It's not anything. It's just literally putting
Do that
one
when
more
you're here. Like,
Well-
what's wrong with you?
Well, and then you went and insulted the intern and live, and I just,
I'll
You
never
have to do it
forget.
while I'm here. That's how you gain my love and respect.
I thought we
Oh.
already had it. I guess I was
No,
mistaken.
No.
But we, in all
You're cool.
honesty, I do have to address any rumors that like this is the end of NPR, they're selling out or anything. No. If you can't, pull that mindset out, feel free to direct it at me, direct all your anger and frustration at me. I'm happy to blow you off and feel, ignore you. But it's a real thing. You guys are on your 10th year. I don't know if you've acknowledged that you're about to hit your 10th year doing this show. So the least that us as members in the community could do is give back with Patreon. So that's
10
what
years of doing this shit. I mean,
Yep.
Nipper
Well,
said he did the Patreon so that he owns us.
Oh.
he's got a point. Yeah.
I will give doing carpets and coffee and carpet cliff, that sort of gives me and Owen an opportunity to focus NPR in a different direction instead of just doing the interview style type of thing. So one is the natural history, and the other one is we're going to be recording it this Thursday with our first guest, and this will be on the NPR Morelia Python radio feed, but it's going to be a segment called because we're good friends with Keith McPeak, and he's such an invaluable person in the hobby, in my opinion. I wanted to start with him, but turns out that Keith McPeak was talking to Richard Ross, which people may know from me and Owen's generation, that he's one of the guys that wrote what we call the Blue Bible, which is a reproductive husbandry of boas and pythons.
Yeah,
so
mine's
we're lining
signed
up
by
an
him.
interview with him in the second episode of Herp History,
Yes.
which, I mean, if you're into boas and pythons, it doesn't get much better than that. So, the idea is to sort of paint the picture of where I think you need to know where we were and where we've come from in order to understand where we're trying to go.
Yep.
Right.
So, and it's sort of a
100%.
payback to the people that sort of paved the way. So I'm excited about that. Obviously we'll still do interviews and stuff like that, but it sort of gives us the opportunity to sort of bridge out, if you will, into to other things. So yeah, nothing but good things coming up. So
hence the umbrella of the NPR network. We're keeping NPR soul intact and bridging upon it, and Lucas and I are just trying to help you guys.
Yep. We're
Really-
selling out in a big way. I mean,
Really achieve
we're
what
not.
you've been trying to do.
Shit.
Well, Owen, you're not going to be selling out until you make squirrel T-shirts.
Make those.
We'll make those.
Apparently, Rogue Rodents has been.
Yeah, that's a thing now.
Rodents.
It's a thing now.
And that's unfortunate because Eric's been asking me to breed rats for him for years, and I've been refusing. And if that gets catchy, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to resist.
Rogue rodents. Do you do you breed feeders? No, I have a squirrel.
No, I have a squirrel.
It's going to be bougie squirrel breeding. They're going to be like $8,000 squirrels.
Thing's got more toys than my dog. Like,
it's a piebald squirrel. We got hypo squirrels.
Translucent, scaleless.
Scaleless squirrels. Yeah, there you go. They already are.
Scaleless.
Can you imagine a hairless squirrel? It's just a rat.
Yeah.
That's got to be
just a rat.
disgusting. Yeah,
Do you
rat
have
tail.
scissors?
He can't afford to do that. He already paid for the ring, Lucas.
Yeah, Lucas, you will hurt me. It would be
All
very
right.
bad. So,
well, with the
Fantastic.
announcement of Owen's new squirrel breeding initiative, we're going to let everyone go. And then, don't forget to support everything that is the NPR network in every way we've just outlined. And we'll catch you all next week with another live mess of a discussion that is carpets and cliff notes.
no, it's just carpets and
Oh, wait.
Carpets and cliff notes.
This is we let you drive for one show, and you
Well, I gotta
hit a
drive it off
boat.
the cliff once in a
I mean,
while.
dear God.
Yeah, whatever this show is called, it's the other C and C.
Yeah.
We have too many. We have 3. Like,
Oh,
anyway.
we do. That's right.
Yeah.
Good Lord, I don't
Nice.
know. I guess the
Yeah.
coffee's
Yeah.
running
better
more now.
titles. Anyway.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
whatever this show is called, it'll be back.
Carrots
Yeah.
and comb overs.
Perfect.
Carrots and comb overs. Yep, that's it.
Excellent.
Alrighty, thank
All
you
right,
guys
gentlemen.
for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
Later, folks.
Eric, watch
All
out
right.
for the gators.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right on.
Go wrestle a gator.
Bye.
I love how Lucas